Finally, in this category of just general tools, is should we batch up problems? Should we batch up good news? Should we share them all at once? There's some psychology here that I saw the research on, and I thought had a good end leadership message for us about information sharing. So this grid is vertically is amount of pleasure we get out of events, and then the opposite, amount of pain we get out of negative events. The x-axis here is the number of events that are delivered at once, so the number of pleasure data points that are delivered at once, or negative or painful data points delivered at once. So here's the psychology around it. If we think about delivering bad news, negative events, bad news to somebody. So here's one negative event, and there's the amount of pain that one negative event delivers to the recipient of the news. Let's say at the same time we delivered 2 pieces of bad news. Here's 2. There's the amount of total pain delivered. And you can see based on the curve, the more negative data points we deliver at once, there's diminishing amount of pain, incremental pain delivered by that news, right? So this is 6 pieces of bad news delivered at once, and the amount of pain those 6 delivered at once. Similarly, on the positive news side, you can see I made it green and red. You get a good piece of news, right? One at one time. Here's the amount of pleasure we derive as humans from that one good piece of news. Let's say at the same time we got another good piece of good news. Here's 2. I got 2 good data points for you. There's the total amount of pleasure. 3, 4, 5, 6. Right? So you see the total amount of pleasure derived from 6 pieces of good news delivered at once, or 6 positive events happening at once. All right, here's the takeaway message. If you look on the negative side, here's the amount of pain delivered by 1 negative data point. Here's the amount of pain by 6. You can see 5 additional losses or pieces of bad news delivered at the same time only results in twice the pain as 1. Similarly, here's 1 good piece of news. Here's the amount of pleasure from 6 pieces of good news delivered at once, right? So 5 additional wins only results in twice the pleasure as the first one. What's the takeaway? Bad news should be batched up and delivered at once. Good news should be spread out over multiple events, right? So looking at the bad news, why do we want to do that? Well, we want to minimize the emotional toll or the pain delivered to the recipient of this bad news. Right? Let's minimize how much emotional drain they have. Now, that doesn't mean we ignore, we don't dig into those 6 pieces of bad news. We say at Fisher's, problems are huge opportunities. We want to make sure we analyze all 6 pieces of bad news. But when we deliver that information to somebody, it's way more humane to do it at once because the emotional toll is less. But we want to go back and make sure we analyze all 6 of those because those are opportunities for us to get better as a company. Spreading good news out. We want to maximize the emotional pleasure by delivering that good news, right? I don't know if you had a grandma, or even if you did do this, I had a grandma that if she was going to give you 6 gifts for Christmas or your birthday or whatever, if you put all 6 of those gifts in one box, no wrapping, you just put it in the box, maybe you wrap the one box, you open it up and you're like, oh, gift, 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 6 gifts at once. What are we doing? We're delivering that level of pleasure on those 6 gifts. Versus if you individually wrap each of those gifts and you open a gift, look, we're going to get this much pleasure from the first gift. Now we're moving on to the second gift. We're unwrapping it. Now this is a second event, right? We get that same amount of pleasure again. And the third gift and the fourth gift. So delivered individually, the good news, you get that much benefit out of each good news, and you're not having the diminishing returns on good news, right? So again, the takeaway message here is bad news, batch up for the recipient. Good news, spread it out so they get even more pleasure out of that great news.